This is the Nostaljunk Podcast, where one person's junk is another person's childhood. I'm Matt McGrath.
And I'm Kyle Smith. Join us as we take a deep dive into your pop culture consciousness. Hello, everybody. Welcome back.
Yeah, it's almost like we didn't even go anywhere.
We still here? Did I sleep here?
Through the miracle of social media, we have linked up with some fellow nostalgic buds in a podcast called Horror Dads, which you can guess are two dads that love horror.
Oh, really? I never would have guessed.
And what we thought was going to be more included in the toys episode just turned into four guys just gushing over horror.
Yeah, I know. Our love for horror.
So here are some of the highlights of that discussion.
So how's everything been going for the podcast for you guys?
It's been a lot of fun. This has been more just for us more than anything.
Yeah.
Just kind of going over our own nostalgia. Like the first few episodes, we just want to get out of our system like an introduction to us and our love of whatever, got us here. So the first episode, movies, and we went into albums, shows. We did a watch along, and then this week we did
watch along.
Yeah, picked a real random one, that's for sure.
Have you ever seen
It's hang on one second, guys. Jamie's calling me here.
All right.
Oh,
Am I on?
we got you in.
Oh,
Yo, what up, guys?
there he goes.
Yes. Technology.
Yeah.
The old man's figuring it out.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
What's up, guys?
You got 3 out of 4 dads in the room here.
3 out of 4 dads.
Well, one's a dog dad, so that's cool.
Oh, that counts too, man.
Yeah, they're just as much fucking work.
Yes, they are for sure.
And the worst part about it is like you're so cute and cuddly, but you can't communicate other than barking and biting and shitting everywhere. So, well, really, that's what I'm dealing with currently with a 3-year-old. So whatever.
Yeah, I mean it's not much different.
So how's the show going for you guys?
Good.
Yeah.
It's a learning curve, learning process.
A lot more work than we anticipated. It's been fun though. We been doing a ton of research, given a reason to watch a lot more horror movies, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, right?
Need a reason to watch more horror movies.
It's difficult. But yeah, like right now we're queuing up for tomorrow, Friday. We're gonna do a session with the guy that wrote the Walking Dead novels, which is amazing.
Like Robert Kirkman?
So his cohort.
The
James,
novels. Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still, that's amazing.
Yeah, and he super nice dude, but we've been doing all this like zombie research, like while this coronavirus outbreak is happening, and we're just like nervous wrecks all the time.
Yeah, it seems like it's almost like it makes me think of The Stand, like Stephen King's The Stand. It's
Yeah.
like
Yep.
the indicators are all there. It's like, oh god.
Yeah, it's very similar. What have you guys listened to as like inspiration?
Well, there's these 2 guys called Horror Dads that have been,
Best one out there.
yeah, just gonna flog that one for a little bit. But for Kyle, I think he introduced me to a couple. I'll hand it over.
Shockwave is big with me. And then Elric Kane, he does the Pure Cinema podcast as well, which
I
is
haven't
pretty
listened
awesome.
to that one.
But Kyle got me onto Shockwaves.
I've not listened to that either. The content's been great. I've been listening for sure, and
Oh, that's cool. Thank you.
Jamie's listened to. Yeah, weekly podcast. So that's like it's a commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we knew, or I know. I mean, I just kind of show up and just talk with Matt, but Matt's kind of taking the helm on all the editing and recordings. But yeah, like we did a bunch of podcasts up front to kind of get it started, and then
That was a good idea.
I know, but then when those kind of start to run out, it's like, oh shit, like we need to get together and like we need a new episode. Every week it's pretty. It seems to be a pretty daunting task.
How far apart do you guys live?
A street.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that helps.
That's how we used to be. Yeah.
Yeah. So like we're longtime buds. We used to play in bands together, and we went to we met in college, and it turns out our moms were friends and work as well too, and yeah, kind of a strange. There's 5 years between us, and as we just found out in our hour and a half of recording here that the 5-year gap when you're into toys is just enough for you to be like, I don't know that toy.
That's our gap too, John, ain't it?
Yeah, just about. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I was born in 85, so it's just enough of a gap that like when you're entering the 90s into like that wish book phase where you're flipping through the pages and you're like, oh my God, I would need that and whatever, right? That kind of gets lost on a person with 5-year difference.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Like I played with
sure.
Thundercats toys. I'm sure John has no idea.
I did not.
No, I did. Yeah,
No.
definitely not. But full disclosure, I'll spoil it for you. Both Kyle and I, our favorite toys were wrestling toys. That was our number one. But we shared a couple along the way, which is kind of strange with the gap too. Like you were He-Man, Transformers. Although I enjoy it, the toys portion wasn't on my radar for some reason. I was just more into like Ghostbusters, Batman, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then I got into Morphin Power Rangers, and then but the Batman that was ultimate. Like that was so much fun. But I got the most enjoyment out of the wrestling figures because there's so many variations of them, right? So
what's funny is I honestly feel like I just had shock therapy because after you reached out last night, I started thinking about I started thinking about my childhood toys, obviously, since last night. And until you said that just now, that actually should probably be my number one, because I had the absolute most of those. But until you said that just now, I completely forgot that was a thing of my life. But
like
I had
wrestling toys?
Just wrestling in general, but yeah, wrestling toys particularly. Yeah, I had a ton of those too. Ton.
Well, it was funny when
like the fake wrestling mat.
Yeah.
All that type of shit. Yeah.
When we were as we were finishing, we found ourselves as we were finishing talking about the various. All of a sudden, we would just like you were saying, like you totally forgot about a certain toy or whatever. And all of a sudden, the end of the episode just seemed to be us going, "Oh man, do you remember the pogo ball? Or do you remember like Super Soakers?" And we just started going off of all these toys from our past that we totally forgot about.
Yeah, it's funny because I was putting the kids to bed just now prior to this thinking like, I wonder if there are any other action figures in my repertoire that I would want to talk about. And then I was like, wait a minute. It didn't say action figures. It said toys. I just assumed action figures. So then I went down that rabbit hole too. And I was like, well, what the hell? What constitutes a toy? Is it that thing from like Home Alone that you could record your voice on?
My God. Did a whole portion on the show on that.
Awesome.
The Talk Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the talk
Boy,
man or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it'd be hard to promote the Talk Boy in 2020.
And no one gives a shit
Because your
about
iPhone does it.
But then I mentioned to Kyle the Yak Back.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Right? It was like you'd be like recording, fart sounds into it, and you'd just be setting it off in your pocket in class.
Yeah.
Or just fart in class, whatever, it doesn't matter. But yeah, so like it's just weird to think that the technology back then was so cool to have something to record about 30 seconds worth of content when now we have, like you said, phones, even non-phones, like just devices just can record at any time for hours at crystal clear volume. We're plugged into a USB mic. Yes, exactly. We're plugged into a USB mic into something. I'm talking to someone in Ohio for free. Like this doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. It does not.
Are you getting this, Jerry? Are you getting this?
I was loving all the
like,
Seinfeld
Tamagotchis
last episode.
Oh yes, well Seinfeld is a current that runs through a lot of us, that's for sure. But yeah, both are number ones, that's for sure.
Man, I know that you said you left it off, but I can't believe you guys didn't hit Sopranos.
I know, because then I was going
bummed.
back.
Yeah.
I know it was going to be my top. It was going to be my number 5, but then I don't know. I just thinking about, I guess, pure nostalgic purposes and being a Canadian, I had to give it up to Trailer Park Boys. Do you guys know Trailer Park Boys at all?
Dude, I love it. Yeah, I was loving that session.
Love that show.
Section of it because I love that show.
So what of the
Your impression of Bubbles was spot on too.
Yeah. Oh, fuck, boys.
Yeah.
It's jalapeno, Ricky. The J is like an H.
Yeah. See, spot on.
Yeah, that's because we know fucking people here that talk like that.
Oh, I'm sure.
Which is embarrassing at the same time because you're like, oh, I love the Trailer Park Boys. And then someone's like, oh, you know people like that? And you're like, yeah. Well, I don't live in a trailer park, and I don't know any criminals, and I don't know someone.
Oh, is that your life? And you're like, no, it's just because it takes place in Canada.
Right. Yeah. Which is amazing because I realize that not all of the U.S. is the way that it's painted in any one light.
Like The Sopranos. My dad's from Jersey, and he's nothing like the people in The Sopranos. Yeah.
Like regionally, right? You know, like I think the way that Canada is portrayed is all of Canada is just Canada, not like East Coast, West Coast, by province, by culture. Yeah. It's just all Canada.
Did you guys follow the format for this specific episode of doing like your top 5 toy genres, or is that how did you structure this one?
I'm gonna have to say yes, but I like that you use the word format as if we planned anything.
Yeah, I remember distinctly playing with my Tamagotchi and it dying at baseball practice, and my dad was like, "What are you doing in the dugout?" And I was like, "I'm feeding my Tamagotchi. I'm cleaning its poop."
Right,
I was like,
exactly.
Get the hell out there, put that away. And I came back and it was.
I'm
dead,
living
and I was
I'm
so
living my
sad.
best life, Dad.
I'm trying to prove to you that I'm a responsible human being.
It's the best form of birth control because it shows you that you're not equipped to take care of anything.
Most certainly. Well, actually, for your parents to be like, Jesus, I'm so glad we stopped with him. I was saying to Kyle that like when we were recapping all of our toys, I still have bins of them at my parents' house because they didn't throw anything out.
Oh yeah, same.
Yeah, exactly right. So like I've got the Ghostbusters, the Turtles, I've got all the wrestling figures, everything. They're in boxes, and I'm super excited to dig them out and show them all to my son. And he's 3, and he's super jazzed about it.
Yeah, that's gonna be super fun.
Yeah. Well, as you know, like you expose your kids to something from your childhood, and then you almost feel like you're a kid again.
The circle of life.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, you find yourself sitting there playing like they are.
Right. Yeah. You're like, okay, so this is the Ultimate Warrior, and so like he does this, right? And they're like, well, and they're just playing. You're like, no, the Warrior would never do that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
No,
he wouldn't clothesline like that, you little idiot.
Yeah, you little idiot. Give me. I'll just show you how you fucking play with that.
So I think the only toys I still have, like in that realm, are the ones that are horror related, I guess.
Such as like what? Yeah.
Resident Evil toys. I remember like having the Tyrant and this little Leon Kennedy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and that was like way too late in life to be collecting toys, to be getting those, by the way.
No way. No way.
Yeah.
No way. Todd McFarlane totally banked on making toys for adults.
He's like, ooh, this 20-something is my market. Yeah.
Like, look at that. So Kyle and I are sitting in my lair, and next to us is a Motley Crue, full set. That's, the Todd McFarlane Spawn set. And I bought that way too late in life for no reason other than the fact that I love Motley Crue, and it's a super cool set. Like, it's them in Shout at the Devil era. Yeah, it's unboxed. You got to let that breathe.
Yeah, it's like a fine wine.
When did those Resident Evil toys come out? Like during like what era of the games, or was it later? Like you said, were you older when those came out, or?
Well, I definitely was older when I got them. So I was probably 14, 15, 16. So that would have been like 15 to 17 years ago.
They came out in conjunction with like release of the games or what?
Yeah,
I'm not familiar with these either.
So I would say probably like Resident Evil 4 is what really reestablished that franchise. And that came out probably when I was like a junior in high school. So I'd say it was probably like 2003, 2004 that happened. So at least my exposure to the popularity of those toys and my interest in them really peaked at that point. But I think prior to that, I mean, Resident Evil 2, I think, is one of the best video games of all time. And they would have had to commoditize that, and there would have had to have been toys that accompanied a game like that too. So
yeah, that's weird because I remember like Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2 for sure. It's like those games that I would just stay up like all night playing like original PlayStation. I don't remember any of the toys from it though.
God,
I guess
yeah.
I never collected
Yeah, I
any
don't
of the
either.
toys from it. But man, like many sleepless nights playing fucking Resident Evil, man. That's amazing. Resident Evil 4 is probably my favorite video game of all time. But yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that game's amazing.
So Resident Evil 2, I just looked, was released on January 21st of 1998. So
Really, 98?
I would have said like 1938 because it feels
I know, that's what I was
Like it's
saying.
that old.
I would have thought 95 for sure or something like that. But
I think that's about when the first one came out.
yeah, wow. I guess I was
Yeah,
older than I thought.
the Resident Evil 6. Okay, this is some serious perspective. Resident Evil 1 came out in 1996, same year Scream came out. So, and
Yeah,
I was probably an age where I shouldn't have been playing that game or watching that movie, but I was doing the shit out of both of those.
Yeah, because I think it was funny that you said Scream because I was definitely 16 because that's 96, and then Scream is actually the first movie I ever snuck into with like a group of my friends. I forget what movie we actually bought a ticket to, but yeah, we snuck into Scream, and it was the
Yeah,
best time
wow.
ever.
I so wish I would have seen that movie in the
Me
theater.
too, man. Yeah, I missed that theater experience.
Did you
Yeah.
Did you see any of them in the theater, Jamie?
No, I don't think I did actually.
I only saw
I feel
Scream
like I can remember
3.
watching every one like for the first time, but it was always like, VHS or DVD.
Oh, VHS.
Yeah.
Make sure you rewind it before you return it, or your ass is going to get a
Certainly.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be a prick and be kind.
Yeah. And it's like you have 8 machines back there behind you, bud. It takes you actually 14 seconds to put it in there and rewind it. Why are you going to charge me $1.50?
Yeah, that was definitely the most bullshit charge ever. Like charging to rewind a tape. Are you serious? Even late fees is kind of like, what do you what do you really
Yeah.
charge? It's just money in the bank for them, you know.
Well, it didn't
And
help them
where
out
are
enough.
they now?
They needed all the money they could get.
Where
Yeah.
are they now?
Like they could charge me for every VHS that I didn't rewind, even if I did rewind it, if they could still exist in my mind.
Most certainly. That's so funny that you put it that way. It's like, yeah, I'd actually pay good money
Just
to
take
be
my
able
money.
to go rent
Come
a
back.
fucking piece of media.
Yeah.
But like
Stand in a
there's-
red box in the freezing cold now.
Yeah.
Do you guys have red? They have red box.
Oh yeah.
Some
There's-
impatient asshole behind me.
God, let me get a
God, that's a
manual
stressful
for.
situation, man. As soon as somebody pulls up behind me, I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck, I just like rent the first shitty thing I see.
Oh God.
My wife's like, why did you rent this new Resident Evil? I'm like, I just got scared. Pick something.
I got flustered. I had a
Went to the horse
horse
section and
again,
picked the
yeah.
first thing I saw. Yeah.
Yeah. And why'd you buy these chips? I hate this fucking kind.
There's someone standing in the aisle next to me. I panicked. I just.
I
Yeah.
panicked.
Yeah, I rented a movie, bought chips and condoms. What else you want from me?
Happy Valentine's Day.
I love you. Yeah. That's cool. So, horror toys. I had a lot of Freddy memorabilia.
Yeah.
I had the glove when I was, 3 or 5. And I loved it. I was just so mystified with being scared, but being okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the roller coaster effect. Like you want it to scare you, but you're not scared, but you're captivated by the horror, like a fantasy. Like much like we spoke about wrestling, like that kind of the escapism and the fantasy. Like you're just kind of lost in the mise en scene of whatever kind of universe they're creating, and you're buying into it. So like, I was addicted to horror movies at an early age, and I loved anything that was over the top. So music, movies, anything that was a characterized version of itself, I was into
yeah.
it. When I became a teen, I was really into death metal, black metal, anything that was extreme and had persona. I was the same way with movies and anything else in my life. I was just, and even with, I think back, even with wrestlers, my favorite wrestler was the Ultimate Warrior, because he was a living cartoon character, really.
And he was a rock star also.
Hell
So if
yeah.
you loved
He was
rock
the
stars,
only-
and that explains it. Yeah.
He was the only one who had a metal entrance.
Well, the Rockers were my jam.
Oh yeah, Rockers were pretty cool.
Shawn
Legion
Michaels,
of Doom.
Marty Jannetty.
Yeah, Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors, Demolition, the rip-offs, but they were
Those,
still
like-
cool.
Those early 90s wrestlers were the best.
Oh yeah.
Like Macho
Yeah,
Man was my personal favorite, but I loved everyone.
Well, Macho Man was a wrestler's wrestler, like Ric Flair. Like those guys were something you study. The rest of them were sports entertainment. Like that's the divisive line.
Speaking of wrestling, and Ninja Turtles were mentioned earlier, but did you guys have either the turtle pillows or the wrestler pillows that like the pillow was like the shape of the character's body and then it had arms and legs?
Oh, you mean a
Oh, yeah.
wrestling buddy?
Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
a
I
wrestling
sure
buddy.
The
did.
Hulk Hogan buddy, and yeah.
I had the Warrior and the Hogan buddy. Hell yeah.
I just found my I had a Leonardo Ninja Turtle one, and I actually just this past January, like a year ago, last January, bought the house I grew up in off my parents.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so like you're saying you had all this stuff in your parents' basement still,
Yep.
so like that became my basement.
Nice.
And found some real gems in there. But yeah, one of those items, that very pillow.
Yeah. No, it's wicked to think back, and like once I started deep diving into like lists of 90s toys and things like that, I thought I do remember that, but that's not my top. Like Pogs were cool, but that wasn't my top
Oh, Pogs.
toy. Like it was a craze, but it wasn't an obsession.
Yeah, Pogs were like those soaps shoes that you used to wear too, like where you could like. Did you guys have those like where you can grind a rail on your feet?
Oh my God, no! This
Oh.
sounds incredible.
So think of
It's like those roller skate
like
shoes.
being exactly. Well, no, not like the wheelie douchey things.
That's what I'm
but-
thinking of. Yeah,
No. I
You
mean,
mean
I still see
booters?
people at like Disney wearing those things, like
Yeah.
zipping down.
that fucking kid. Yeah.
No, these were soaps. They were called soaps, and they had like grind plates in the middle of the sole.
No.
So much like you could like grind a rail on a pair of like inline skates, you had them on the feet of your shoes. And like I was zipping around the playground with my Pogs in my pocket and grinding slides and shit.
I can't tell if
as
that's
one does.
awesome or if that's
Yeah.
lame as shit. I honestly, I can't figure it out.
I'm going to tell you right now, given my interests and my athletic ability, which my interests are weird and I'm not very athletic, it was not cool. I was not cool.
Okay, because it's not. I'm not picturing it as cool.
No, I was not like Artie's friend in Christine. No, I was like Artie and Christine.
You're already, yeah.
Yeah.
Pre or post Christine though, because he ended up being pretty.
We're talking pre.
He
Most
ended up being
certainly
pretty cool.
free.
No,
At
he
least-
became a badass. Yeah, no.
At least
this
cool in
was pre.
Christine's mind. Christine thought he was cool, at least.
Yeah.
Down here, I'm looking around the room at some of my collectibles on the shelves. They're not so collectible because I do definitely open things up, but my son definitely likes playing with my Friday the 13th Part 7 Jason,
Oh my God.
which I am very attached to movie-wise. Part 7 was definitely weird, but that was the first Kane Hodder
Yeah. Yep.
Jason.
Yeah.
And that's when he really started to look like how I felt Jason should look.
He became way more like personalized and more menacing.
Yeah, he was more zombified, but more human at the same
Right.
time.
Yeah.
Have you guys watched
Which made him scarier.
Crystal Lake
definitely.
Memories? That documentary, Crystal Lake Memories?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Yeah, they really go through the lineage of like who acted him in each of the films,
Yeah.
and there's some really neat and interesting perspective on like each person they hired.
Right.
And it's funny too. I can't remember if it was the director or this is probably someone that's going to come up on your podcast a lot. If it was the director from Part 4 or the guy that played
It was
Jason
the guy that
from,
played Jason.
who like hated Corey Feldman. He was
Yeah.
like, he was such a little shit. I got a bad feeling from him.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what's your opinion on Part 5? Because that one is not a part of the universe to me. I'm sorry.
Jamie, what's your opinion?
I mean,
have mine.
I like Part 5. It's very similar to. It's not the same as Halloween 3, by no means. But
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
just
Right.
enjoy it for being part of that universe. Like when I watch it, I totally separate the fact that it's not fucking Jason. Like when I watch it, to me, it's still Jason. You know what I mean? I just like totally. It's because I'm not going to the theater. It's not fucking 1991 or whatever year this was released. So like I'm smart enough to know that it's not, but like I can still separate myself from that and put myself in there as if it is. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. So speaking from a nostalgic perspective, is that because you're attached to it from an earlier time, or is that you trying to objectively enjoy it because it's part of something that you like?
Well, I certainly watched it. It's a little bit of both, because I certainly watched it growing up, and I had no idea that it wasn't Jason. Like, I never knew that until I got older. So it still has that fear factor. Like, when I watch it, I can still put myself back as a child with that fear factor of, like, this is still fucking Jason. But now everybody watches it, and, like, the only thing people talk about is, like, it's not Jason, so who cares?
Right. So
but to me, it still is.
Right.
Yeah, it's the same argument for Halloween 3. However, to your point, it's no Halloween 3.
Yeah, I mean, the comparison's really shitty, but
I go the other way with it. I feel like
you're not wrong
when I think of that movie that it's like thinking of my parents getting divorced or something. Like I feel like that's the one event of the franchise that
fucking heavy.
Wow, that took a turn.
Well, my parents didn't get divorced. However,
did you want to talk about it, or?
Let me lay down on this sofa here and spill out my deepest.
Let me start the clock. Hold on.
But also, guys, Halloween 5 is super entertaining. If you like, or Friday the 13th Part 5 is super entertaining.
Yeah, I love it.
The whole thing, that beginning with the fucking kid with the candy bar. I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
You know, and the guy just starts fucking chopping him up he's chopping the wood and then just, all right, I'm going to chop this fucking dude up.
Just talking to me too much. Actually, that is the most angry human being.
Oh, just the most angry.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that movie's.
But does it fit?
To me, it does. It's goofy as fuck. Like, those neighbors are goofy as shit.
Yeah.
But like, to me, it totally fits in there. I'm good with it, because that whole fucking franchise is camp, anyways.
So I view the first four films in my mind. That's like one film.
It's
right?
a separate. Yeah. To me, that's like a trilogy. You know, the 4-part series. Yeah.
Okay. So it's kind of fitting that part 4 is called the final chapter.
To me, totally. Yeah.
5 feels like a bridge. You know, like
5 is its own thing, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I got the Halloween 3 thing, because to me 5 doesn't. You could totally pick that out by itself.
There's a divisive culture that appreciates 3 as a good movie, and then there's others that think that it's a bad movie because it doesn't feature Halloween. Yes, but unlike that, this movie features the character of Jason, but not Jason.
I mean, they did a similar end to Halloween 4, I guess, where they give you the confusing, like, wait, is she now Michael Myers? And then heading into Halloween 5, which, oddly enough, Halloween 5 and Friday the 13th Part 5, this is like a turning point that's not necessarily positive. Halloween 6 is fantastic, I think. This is the first one I saw. And Friday the 13th Part 6, I like more than 5.
6 is divisive as well. I love 6.
I was going to say, like, what do you think about? I forget now what the cult is that they tried to.
The Cult of Thorn.
Yeah.
Cult of Thorn.
What do you think of that whole thing?
I pay no attention to that.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that doesn't even exist. I don't give a shit about that.
Almost like
people
we don't.
are always trying to figure it out. It's like, I don't know. I don't care, because it doesn't.
Exactly.
It came out of nowhere. It goes nowhere.
Like,
yeah.
Keep the formula's perfect as it is. We don't need anything over explained. You know.
Yeah. No. You overcomplicate it. You make it like, we just want horror, man. We just want,
Well,
not that we
was
don't
like
complex stuff, but.
So this is an interesting concept. Having different directors involved in a franchise. This is going to be like a big circle, but it's going to come full circle. So stay with me. One of my favorite podcasts is the X-Files Files that Kumail Nanjiani did, and he was talking on that podcast about how season 1 of the X-Files, like, all the writing contributors didn't have like a playbook of where the show was going to go. So like, people that were like, oh, I'm slated to write episode 8 would find out what happened in episode 7 like the week that they were writing that episode. So it was like, oh shit, so and so like made a wide left turn here, so now I have to like work that into the story somehow. So similarly, I think for Halloween 5 heading into 6, I think when Halloween 6 came around, they were like, oh, we got this fucking symbol we got to deal with now, so we're gonna have to bake that into the storyline somehow and clean up the pieces here. So I think it's really interesting though to see like the universe that holds like multi contributors to it, and how, you know, directors and actors are required to adapt, sort of thing.
Yeah, that is interesting. And I wonder like also how much that comes from like studio pressure or something. Like, I don't know. That is interesting to think about, like how that whole dynamic works of like.
Yeah, there have to be like so many layers of politics that involve production. Like you think of like Jerry Jones owning the Dallas Cowboys, like the politics associated with like, okay, who's your starting running back, and are you going to pay him, and this and that. Like he micromanages the shit out of his people, and I think similarly, like you got to think of the Akkad family. Like Halloween, you know, that was their thing, and I'm sure that they had serious control over a lot of those decisions. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just speculating.
That's how the Weinsteins were with the Scream franchise also.
Got to bring him up, huh,
true.
Jamie?
gotta bring that can of worms up.
Gotta bring them up.
But yeah, no, I guess and I think that might be why I appreciate the reboot to Halloween so much, is like it kind of takes away. I like the idea of like starting fresh. Like maybe it just got so convoluted and confusing over the years. It's like, all right, let's just go back to what everybody kind of like maybe wants, and let's try to make something, I don't know, new and fresh, I guess.
Yeah, Jamie, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd say like if I had to give it a number, I'd say like 7.5. It does what it needs to do. I wouldn't put it above like my top 5 Halloween films.
No.
I didn't dislike it. Did you?
I agree with that.
No.
I don't know. It wasn't that scary. And I feel like
I did kind of like how mean-spirited it was. But yeah, you're right. It wasn't like too scary. But I don't know. I kind of like just the Michael Myers idea of just like a force. Like, remember the ones where he just like he runs like a rampage of him just going into houses and like destroying whatever's inside just so he can like hide out for, you know, I don't know. I kind of like that whole idea.
Yeah, I think my issue with it was like how militant it felt, like with the like all the guns and all, like I don't know.
I think Jamie Lee Curtis's character fucked it up for me a little bit.
Yeah,
I feel like they made her like
her.
a shitbag. Like they made her like this maniacal fucking alcoholic Looney Tune. And it's like, I don't know.
But
that's kind of what turned it off for me.
But that trap she set for him at the end when they're looking down at him in the basement, that was pretty awesome.
Oh,
Yeah,
there's no
set
doubt.
fire to him and shut the door.
Everything she did with that basement was awesome. Like the house in general, like I had no problem with that. Like I thought that, like what you're talking about at the end, the trap she set was awesome. I think just my thing, like John said, like the militant vibe they gave her, like how she treated her kid like shit. I hated that. It like made her like almost a shitty character.
Yeah. I think the last great Halloween that was made was Halloween H2O.
I thought you were gonna say Resurrection.
Wait, is H2O Josh Hart and Michelle Williams?
Yeah, we love that movie.
Man, I haven't seen that in so long.
Oh, you gotta go back to it.
You have to go back.
I went to theater to see that.
That was
Oh, you did?
98
Nice.
Yeah.
that came out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
Resident
98.
Evil 2.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was really kind of, you know, like the Scream era of horror.
It was. Yeah.
You know, and you're right at that, like the summer blockbuster of horror movies. Like, but it didn't even matter that it was a horror movie. You just went because it was one of those big franchises that lured you in with the fact that it's a long-staying force. Like you said, Kyle. Like it's not about the character necessarily. It's just that it's unrelenting and it will be timeless. Like we can have Michael Myers exist well beyond even our children.
Because it's so simple.
It's so simple.
Yeah, that's why, like what you were talking about, when they try to overcomplicate it, it gets just convoluted. And
Yeah, you could always reinvent. Like I will argue, yes, you could always reinvent Michael Myers, Jason, Freddy to an extent, provided Robert Englund will stay young. But
Yeah. Oh God.
you know, I am on board with him, not to be biased because I do love Freddy, but you know, like I am on board with him saying pass the torch to Kevin Bacon. But you know, like you have to have the right charismatic person to play such a over the top person like Freddy, but that's based off of Freddy being merchandised to the umpteenth degree that he was when he was campy. So is that the Freddy you want, or do you want Freddy Part 1 and Part 2? Because in my eyes, Part 2 is still a terrifying Freddy.
Oh, for sure.
I agree entirely.
Yeah.
We were actually, Jamie and I were talking about this earlier, and how everyone gives me shit because it's definitely one I think I've seen the most, simply because it was always on Netflix like 10 years ago. But
it was like the only one that was always on there.
yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. I just remember like
You're going to watch this and you're going to love it.
Yeah.
That must be that American Netflix, because Canadian Netflix, not so much.
2005, I just recall like coming to my first semester of college and just being like, I'm going to watch the hell out of this every single day. And
Because
I feel
it
like
was the only one on, right?
yeah, so many films I feel like stuck with me from that first like fall semester of college, like that and Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I remember watching so many times, like my freshman year of college. The Dead series, the Night, Dawn, Day, and Land of the Dead movies. I just remember.
Oh
really,
yeah.
You know what I remember from your apartment in college the most is probably Hatchet.
Oh, dude, a great movie.
Man,
Like
Hatchet.
12 there watching it. Yeah.
That's Adam Green, right?
Adam Green, yeah, the dude who did Frozen. And
Man, I watched Frozen just the other day, and that was like my second or third time watching that. Frozen is awesome. Like,
yeah, that's a good movie. I've only
not
seen
to
it
take
once,
away from
but it's
Hatchet,
good.
because Hatchet's amazing too, but I just love Frozen.
I need to go. I need to revisit
Wait, is that the one where they're on the
ski lift.
ski lift?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
just like three people.
Yeah, that's
I
good.
love one setting location kind
Oh,
of.
you like stuff like that? Yeah.
Yeah,
Like ATM.
The what?
Did you watch ATM?
Oh, ATM. No,
Yeah.
I saw Phone Booth.
Phone booth is shit.
Did you
Yeah,
see
no, it's not.
P2?
With Wes Bentley. Yeah, man, that was a while ago. What was one that I saw?
I think
what was it
the
called?
Christmas movie.
There's one called like speaking of a good Canadian horror film. Do you guys know Cube?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
I do
good
not.
one.
I don't know that.
That
Kind of
came out,
side.
what,
I guess a
85?
little. What's that? Sorry.
What year did that come out? 85, 89?
No, wouldn't be that early. Definitely 90 something. But
Okay.
yeah, more. I guess maybe a little more
97.
sci-fi horror elements.
Ooh, more like this on IMDb says Identity. I love that movie. Yeah, Identity.
John
with
Cusack?
John Cusack.
Yeah.
That takes it
That
back.
movie came out in 2003, and I feel like that movie came out in 1903.
Have you guys seen that In the Tall Grass?
Yes, I've watched it.
Because I always hear people compare that movie to Cube.
Well, just because Vincenzo Natali's the director and he directed Cube, I wouldn't. I mean, I guess where it's kind of it's one setting that and a lot of shifting in like time and space, I guess maybe, but I wouldn't. I don't know. I don't think it's really like Cube at all. Cube's just it's really set in one kind of setting, whereas In the Tall Grass has a lot of different
More
layers
going on.
Yeah, with like that whole like what's that, like Cthulhu-ish type of like ancient god type. What was that,
it
like
gets
gray?
weird.
The rock and all
The
that.
rock in the middle,
Lots
yeah.
of different layers. But that movie's
John, have
pretty
you seen
awesome.
that yet?
In
You
the
haven't
Tall
seen that,
Grass?
have you? Yeah.
I actually started watching it with my sister over at your house one evening, and I was like getting real sleepy.
How much does it remind you? How much does it remind you of that Peppa Pig episode when they're in the tall grass? I swear to God, it's like they made that episode after that movie. Because they even do that thing where they're jumping up and like, jump up so I can see you.
Yeah. Peppa Pig.
This is horror dads right now.
Yeah.
And also, this is like just us texting each other on Wednesday. It's like, hey,
Right.
how about that episode of Peppa? This dude though, Vincenzo Natali, I just was looking him up. He has a lot of credits on a lot of very horror related TV work. So he's got 2 episodes of Lock and Key he's done, which I haven't started yet. Tremors TV movie in 2018. I didn't even know it was a thing, so got to look at that.
Wait a minute.
It can't-
2018
cannot be good.
Tremors?
TV movie?
Yeah, that's what. That's the
Are
credit.
we talking about the trailer that came out in 2018?
A television
was-
reboot of the film Tremors, in which a small town is gripped with fear over giant underground worms living beneath them.
Okay,
That had to have
so
gotten canned or something.
it got canned. and all they had was a trailer episode based off of footage from what would have been a pilot episode, and it didn't even take off. And Kevin Bacon even started a online petition to get this in action somehow. But the trailer actually looked badass, and as a Tremors fan, I wish that this happened.
So there's one review on here, and it says the caption for the review is "Really?" with 3 question marks, and it's just this guy going off about how Tremor fans got screwed because they've been waiting for this in very poor form to cancel it at last minute.
Yeah. Well, I'm surprised that like we have so many streaming avenues now that buy up properties and likenesses that someone hasn't invested any money whatsoever. Like, think of some of the garbage that you've clicked over that you're like, I can't believe this is a show. And yet something like a cult following associated with Tremors hasn't been picked up. Because Tremors actually had a TV series for a short while, but it actually had more to do with plants than it had to do with graboids. It was like a Little Shop of Horrors extension of...
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah. Okay, so a couple of weeks ago, Kyle and I went to a screening of Little Shop of Horrors, Rick Moranis version. And we do... So there's this like retro once a month... group that puts it on called Thrillima. So last month was Little Shop of Horrors, and this month is Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Oh man.
And so like they'll screen like whatever high edition, high def version.
Like Videodrome and RoboCop, and yeah, that's awesome.
Oh my god. And Donnie Darko a couple of years, and yeah.
In Cleveland called Capitol Theater. They do a lot of stuff like that. In fact, they played a few years ago when my wife and I were living in Cleveland, but they screened like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
And it was cool.
Of
And
the ooze.
I wish we had something like that.
They raffled off a pizza, and I won it and shared it with everyone there. It was like a very cool experience.
That's awesome.
Hell yeah, yeah. We talked about turtles on the toys discussion, and had the pizza thrower.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Kyle was like, "Oh, the discs." I was like, "No, pizzas." They were pizzas, motherfucker, and they were throwing.
No, pizzas.
Yeah. No, so that's super cool. I love the retro cinema vibe. Oh. You know, like it brings up. So we went to RoboCop at in the basement of a brewery. And so Propeller here in Halifax, they have a full-on arcade, about 4 rows of either arcades or pinballs, just all in a line. Beers are $5 each, and then steps down into where they actually make the beer. They've cleared it out, filled it with chairs, have a screen up, and they screened RoboCop, and it was just glorious.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Like you imagine, like that's really the ideal setup. Drinking beers in a arcade in the basement of a brewery, eating hot dogs, watching RoboCop.
It's the perfect setup.
With a bunch of other assholes just like you.
Just smiling the entire time.
And yelling, "Oh, clearance!"
A bunch of dudes have seen RoboCop one too many times.
I'd buy that for $1. What we're trying to get at is to collaborate with people like yourselves. Like you already touch on nostalgia as it is, because it's nostalgia what brought you to your discussion. But it's the grand scheme of things. Like, for instance, we were talking about Goonies in the first episode. You can't have Stranger Things without Goonies. That Stranger Things is nostalgic even from a modern standpoint.
Yeah, that's a fascinating. So
100%, yeah.
I was going to make the comment before you even started that sentence that I feel like it's a very meta concept, but yes. Like this time of life right now for me and for Jamie and for I feel like anyone that has young kids, it's like we are currently living in what will eventually become nostalgia. So when you're a kid, like you're just being a kid and you have like 3 priorities. Like you want a juice box, you want to piss, and you want to like play with toys and just be crazy, right?
Right.
But now, you're smart enough to like pause and self-reflect and enjoy experiences and just understand things more holistically. But we are currently living a time that will be nostalgic for us at some point in time later in life. God willing, we live long enough for that to be the case. So it's like we're in that time. So like Stranger Things is going to be a nostalgic experience talking back on it. Like I even speak of that fondly because I remember exactly where I was. I had my 2-year-old sitting on my lap, like when I came across it on Netflix, and just like there's going to be time after time where things are going to be rooted in nostalgia through the parenting process. And I think like we're living it now, which is really fascinating.
It's also kind of weird to think about how in the future, like say when your kids grow up, or like and you show them you show something in the future and they'll be like, oh, it was like Stranger Things, and you're like, no, it was more from E.T. or the X-Files.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? And it's like nostalgia inception or something.
Yeah. Nostalgia inception.
Multiple layers of different timelines of nostalgia.
Yeah, that show in particular, man, kicks the nostalgia up hardcore.
Yeah, and
it's like every frame you're like, God damn, that's Ghostbusters, or that's
exactly,
E.T. Yeah. Just like you were saying, yeah.
They do the hell out of that.
Yeah, so that was a talk. I don't know if you got anything out of that.
Good guys too. Like you can just tell that we're kind of just all coming from the same place, and I don't know. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, they're good guys, and definitely check out their show, Horror Dads.
Thank you for tuning in for Nostaljunk Podcast. I'm Kyle Smith.
And I'm Matt McGrath. Bye.